So it's been almost 2 months since I made my last video about animes that I have watched, and during that time I watched 3 new animes. So I was like, hey, let's make a video while they are still fresh in my mind. Also, side note, but I recently started to rewatch Onisama-e, and there was so much in it that I simply forgot about, so I feel like I need to make a full review about that anime when I finish my rewatch. Anyway, I am going to present 3 animes and tell you what I thought about them. Just like the last video, I will divide these into sections, and the 2 sections I will talk about today is animes that I watched dubbed and animes that I watched subbed. And we're gonna start with the anime that I watched dubbed, which is Silver Fang. Now, I just wanna give a heads up that when I say dubbed, I do not mean English dub, because Silver Fang does not even exist English dubbed. In fact, this anime is very obscure and not at all known or popular in any other country besides the Nordic countries. So the dub that I watched of Silver Fang was the Swedish dub. Now, before I go into the plot of Silver Fang, I just want to give a heads up that I will show some images of animals getting hurt or dying. So if you're sensitive to that, I advise you to look away and simply just listen rather than looking at the screen. I will also say that I will try to not talk too much about spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that. Silver Fang is about an Akita that is born silver-colored, which according to his owner is the best kind of color to have as a hunting dog. His name is Silver, or his name is Ginga in Japanese, but since I watched the Swedish dub, his name is Silver there. And he is trained to grow up to become a hunting dog, eventually to hunt some bears. There is a special bear at the mountains nearby called Akakabuto, and this bear is just giant and has a red helmet-like streak going all the way on its back, and it's really bloodthirsty and kills everything and everyone in its way. The beginning of the show seems like it's gonna be a story about a boy and his dog, because a lot of episodes is just him and his boy owner and the boy's grandpa, which has taken Silver to train him to become a proper hunting dog. But mid-through, Silver suddenly decides that he wants to join some wild dogs that roam the mountains, so he joins their group. And this is kind of interesting because before this he has only communicated in barks, and now everyone is talking because now it's the dogs. And it's a lot of wild dogs that just go travel across Japan to recruit even more dogs, because they are planning on having a full-on war between the dogs and the bears, and they are planning to attack Akakabuto, the giant bear, so they need a lot of dogs. The thing with watching it dubbed is that the dub censored a lot of things and didn't even show full episodes, which meant that I definitely missed some things, because suddenly there's a dog that is about to die when he was completely fine in the previous episode. There's dogs that randomly disappear, and there's dogs that randomly show up. And things get extremely violent. Do you want to know how many dog corpses I have seen in this show alone? And not only that, but also bear corpses. They go kill some bear cubs simply because they were the cubs of Akakabuto. And I understand their motive, but it was still some cubs, and they just fucking killed some innocent children. They can't help who their father is. What the fuck? I would kind of describe this anime as the book series Warrior Cats, but an anime where there's a war between dogs and bears. I have never read Warrior Cats, by the way. So yeah, this show is extremely violent and just kills a bunch of animals in every single episode. There's so much blood and so much death, and you wonder why this even was a kid's show. And it's not really a kid's show. And you can also wonder how come this was so popular in the Nordic countries when it's not popular everywhere else. Well, we simply like dead dogs, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have full confirmation on this, but my theory is this. You see, in the Nordic countries, we haven't aired as much animes as they have in, for example, Italy and in Latin America. We didn't really air animes on TV until the 90s. I think the first one was the Moomins, and then it was not because it was an anime, but rather because it was the Moomins. And then we aired Sailor Moon, and like Sailor Moon was like fine, but I have also heard that a lot of parents and also some of the voice actors just thought the show was really weird and didn't really understand the whole anime thing. Like, Sailor Moon was really popular with all the children, but all the adults just seemed to think that it was really, really weird for some reason. And I mean, then in the 2000s, they aired a bunch more animes, I would say, by that point. But summary is they haven't aired as much animes as in other countries. But before the 90s, they released some animes on VHS. The one responsible for buying the license to some of these animes tried to talk to like television, at least in Sweden, and they were like, no, we don't understand that Japanese animation thing, we won't air them on TV. So they were forced to just release them on VHS and just hope that people will find them. And both in Swedish dub and I know in Finnish dub, and I think also maybe in Norwegian and Danish dub too, they only had around like 4 or 5 people doing every single voice for all the animes that they released on VHS. It was kind of low budget, but they did their best. But the thing with this is that I believe that they found Silver Fang and was like, oh, look, it's cartoon dogs, how fun, let's dub it. Thinking it was for children, because it looks like it is for children. But then what happened was that actually they thought it was too violent, and I know like in the Swedish dub the reason that they cut some stuff and cut some episodes was actually because the voice actors themselves like refused to dub at a certain point because they just thought it was too violent. But there's also the thing that due to no animes airing on TV in the 80s and early 90s, the only animes children got was from VHSs. And thus, these VHSs were really, really popular. And my guess is that a lot of people saw the VHS covers and thought, oh my god, what a cute show about some dogs going on adventures. And they just let their kids rent them and buy them, and now every Nordic millennial seems like they are deeply traumatized by the bear Akakabuto. I also know that Silver Fang was a bigger hit in Finland than it was in Sweden because they got the whole manga translated to Finnish. We didn't get that. What I know, maybe we did. I haven't looked into it. But because I knew how big of a cult following Silver Fang had in the Nordic countries, I just felt, as a Nordic person, that it was my obligation to watch this anime and see why it was so popular specifically over here and nowhere else in the world. But I also think another reason to why Nordic people love it so much is because of the similar scenery. Because not every one of us have grown up near forest or like near mountains, of course, but we all are very familiar with forests. Like, just take Norway, Sweden and Finland. All 3 of us have a lot of forests. And like from an early age, we go out for walks in the forest, and if our parents didn't take us, we definitely went with our daycare groups to the forest. We are very familiar with all that nature. It also takes place near a ski resort, and skiing is a very big sport in the Nordic countries. We all have been at a ski resort at some point near a small village where there's locals and a lot of hunting dogs. 'Cause yeah, even if we don't have hunting dogs ourselves, we absolutely know someone who has a hunting dog. So there is all that familiarity, even if Silver Fang takes place in Japan and not in the Nordic countries. I've also heard about a lot of Nordic kids who admitted that, especially those who grew up in like smaller areas where there were a lot of forests and bears in general around, they felt very afraid when they were going to school early in the morning, especially during like winter months when it was really dark outside, because they were afraid that they would like meet Akakabuto on the way to school. Would I recommend this anime? I mean, I recommend it in the sense that it is very obscure in every other country besides the Nordic country, so you can watch it because it's obscure and like give it some more love and attention. But it also has a lot of animal death, and I know that is triggering for a lot of people, so if you don't like that, then keep out from the anime. I do find it a little funny that like maybe the people near the village just like are chilling in their cottages, and in the forest there's a full war between the bears and the dogs. There is also a follow-up series with Silver's son named Weed. I haven't watched that one, but maybe it's good, I don't know. Okay, I am done talking, so you can turn back to the screen if you only listened because you didn't want to see imagery of like dead animals. And that was the only anime in the section of animes that I have watched dubbed. Now we're moving on to animes that I watched subbed. The next anime I'm going to talk about is Sailor Moon, and not the full show, but rather only Sailor Moon stars. I have said before that I haven't watched the Sailor Moon anime properly, and I haven't. That is not to say that I haven't watched it at all, because I have consumed the show by watching completely random episodes from different seasons. That, and I have basically consumed the show from season 1 to season 4 by a Swedish parody dub, which I have discussed before. So like I have seen the show, but not like in a serious way, rather in like a parody way. But I have never ever seen an episode from Sailor Moon Stars. And that season really intrigued me. If you don't know anything about Sailor Moon Stars is the final season. And it's very controversial because it's the season that seems to be harder to get, I guess, in at least the Western countries. But then I realized that we live in a time where everything can be found online. Okay, not everything. I am still looking for the Swedish dub of Lady Oscar. I know there exists a Swedish dub of Lady Oscar somewhere in the world, and I want to find it. But anyway, Sailor Moon you can definitely find online. And so I realized, hey, I can just watch the entire of Sailor Moon Stars if I so choose. So Sailor Moon Stars is the only Sailor Moon season that I have watched every single episode in a season in a row. And the thing with Sailor Moon is that every new season has its own villains and its own formulas, etc. So it's not so much that I need to have watched the previous seasons to know what's going on in this season. And I pretty much already know what happens previously, even if I haven't properly watched it, but still. Sailor Moon Stars at first resumes something that happened in Super S, which is in season 4, for the first 6 episodes. And I would say that all of those episodes are amazing. I like them all. And after that, we start with a brand new story about some new characters calling themselves the Sailor Stars that are looking for their long-lost princess, and they arrive on Earth and they need a disguise. It should be noted here that all of the Sailor Stars are female, but they disguise themselves as male pop idols. And this is a reason that especially the US didn't want to dub this in America back in the days, haha. And obviously it didn't come to Sweden either. Sweden only dubbed the two first season of Sailor Moon and not anymore after that. And I wanna be clear that I do not think it has to do with censorship, because the Swedish dub did not censor anything except for making Zoisite a girl, but that's beside the point. I am sure that they wouldn't censor anything else if they had to dub season 3 and forward, and the ones that were responsible for the dubbing simply said that they didn't have a license to dub season 3 and forward, and maybe we should believe them, but some other fans simply think that they just didn't like dubbing the show because they thought it was weird, and that can also be a reason, I don't know. Nonetheless, the Sailor Stars, disguised as male pop idols, they start to attend the high school of most of the Sailor Guardians. And I want to say that I wish that the Sailor Guardians started high school earlier than in the last season, because I honestly feel like it was just funnier seeing them in high school than in middle school. But that can also be because I am older and maybe can appreciate characters that are in larger grades than the ones in lower grades. I think the villain is really good in the season, and I love all the minions, especially how ridiculous some of them are. Also, Uranus and Neptune are in the season a lot, and the thing is, I have only really seen them in like season 3 episodes and not so much in season 5 episodes, and holy crap, every other scene with them is just them making dirt jokes. I get why the Americans couldn't dub this, because how would they make the cousins make such dirty jokes with each other, huh? Okay, I know they actually had to redub the entire Sailor Moon show, so they had like a decent English dub now, I guess, but whatever. Uranus and Neptune, they also like brought a really hilarious scene from an episode where the monster is in Usagi's house.
信じられませんわ。そうよ、言ってやって。土足でテーブルの上に乗るなんて。ごめんなさい。
Also, that might be one of my favorite episodes in the whole season. Just the monster is in her house and just everyone just knocks stuff over as they are trying to fight the monster. It's such a mess. Also, I have like kind of shipped Rei and Usagi, and it really helped that Mamoru, which is Usagi's boyfriend, was absent for most of the season, because that just meant that Rei and Usagi, they interacted way more. And then Michiru, Neptune, the canon lesbian, asked Rei if her and Usagi's relationship is similar to her and Haruka's. By the way, please tell me there's a fan fiction of Rei and Michiru in that forest, because we only got a tiny bit of that, and I really want to know how their dynamic would be in that forest if we just could find out some more about it. Another reason that I wanted to see some Sailor Moon is because I am making a magical girl AU that is not Sailor Moon related per se, but definitely inspired by Sailor Moon, and so I wanted to have some like writing and art inspiration when I created it. It's not an original story, by the way, it's a fan fiction of an entirely different fandom where I just have made a magical girl AU. My AU also includes a magical toddler, and I really got some inspiration when Sailor Moon Stars also had this magical toddler that just came out of nowhere. I love Chibi Chibi a lot. She just appears and everyone just loves her as they should. I also just really appreciate all of the slapstick humor in the show. Because Sailor Moon can just take itself so seriously while simultaneously can have so much fun. I laughed out loud several times. It was a really entertaining watch. And I know I should probably watch the full show properly as well, but Sailor Moon Stars just intrigued me the most. And I had already seen random episodes from all the other seasons and I knew the basic premises. It was not like I was not at all lost when I watched Sailor Moon Stars, because I mentioned this in the previous video, but I have basically consumed Sailor Moon so much without properly even watching the anime or ever reading the manga. I just know everything about it without actually properly watching or reading it. But this has been the only season that I have legitimately watched from start to finish every single episode, and I had a really good time. And the final anime that I have seen now is Revolutionary Girl Utena. Oh boy, how do we summarize this anime? Okay, this anime is gonna be a bit more hard to explain the plot of, because the whole show is just symbolism and metaphors, and there is nothing that is actually or literally happening except for one or two events. So it's basically just everything is just up for analyzing what it means and what it could mean, because a lot of things don't really have one specific allegory to what it can be. Everything has just different kinds of ideas of what it could be. Okay, but I am trying to basically explain the plot. It's about a girl named Utena that when she was a child met a prince that comforted her when her parents had died. We never find out how her parents died, they are just dead. But to comfort her, he showed her something eternal and told her to keep her spirits up, and ever since that day she has vowed to become a prince herself. We get some more context to what exactly that eternal thing the prince showed her, and some more context to why exactly she wants to be a prince, but that's into spoiler territory, I would say. I wanna say right off the bat though that Utena wanting to become a prince is not exactly a trans allegory or anything. She identifies as a girl and has multiple times even corrected people when they say that she's a boy. She's no, I am a girl. She is just a girl that wants to be a prince. Anyway, at her boarding school, she gets herself into this sword dueling tournament where the winner of the duel gets to be quote-unquote engaged to the Rose Bride, which is a girl called Antihimemia. Now, Antihimemia is probably one of the most interesting characters in the whole series, because Utena is kind of a himbo. She's just she doesn't really always know what's going on and is in her own little thoughts a bunch of time. A really funny thing about her is whenever she doesn't know how to answer something or doesn't know what to do, she just randomly starts stretching and working out. But Auntie is a very quiet and reserved girl, and she doesn't really express a lot of emotions. She just kind of just always has this neutral smile. And it's kind of she's just being submissive in her role as the Rose Bride. But we also come to find that she's kind of behind the scenes a lot, doing a lot of things that we won't really know how and what it is until later in the show. We have characters in the student council that A lot of them are interesting in different ways. While there is, of course, most episodes just focusing on Utena and Anti and the duels, some episodes focus on other characters and most often Nanami. And Nanami is probably my favorite character. Like, maybe because she acts a bit like a DCLA mean girl. A DCLA mean girl means essentially that she takes herself really, really, really seriously, but in actuality she's just ridiculous. And I would say that she's basically a mix of Ludmilla from Violetta and Amber from Soiluna, if I'm going to make the DCLA mean girl comparison. Everyone that has absolutely no idea what DCLA shows are and just came to watch my anime video, I am sorry. DCLA shows is something that I talk about a lot on this channel, and I have a tendency to not shut up about it and like find comparisons to it, to everything, even though no one else even knows what I am talking about. I am sorry, let's move on and just only talk about Utena now. Anyway, every episode with Nanami is just like a crack post, basically. All of these like random stuff happen, but the thing is, it's a lot of like metaphors for different things. Like the episode where she lays an egg and goes around all episodes figuring out what to do now when she has laid an egg, and if it's normal to lay an egg, do all the girls lay an egg? What if it turns out that everyone else also has laid eggs and she's really late about it? What if no one else lays eggs and she's the only one and she's gonna be seen as a space alien? And there's the episode when she needs to get a curry, and her and her friends on their journey to find this curry keep getting attacked by these elephants that keep chasing after them. Or the episode where she turns into a cow. And these things, they just like seem like very, very random things, but like they all have some sort of metaphor. And a lot of things in the show have like clear metaphors, what it's supposed to be, but a lot of other things are simply like up for interpretation. It can have multiple interpretations. I also like love the 3 random boys in the background that often speak in a choir. I am so unsure what they are doing half of the time, but they are just like, they always crack me up. I always like love like random things happening in the background sometimes. Anyway, if you watch the show, I have to also warn you that it has some really, really heavy subject as well. As I mentioned, a lot is just like allegories and metaphors, but some of these things are like way more explicit, and even though it has the funniest and most cracked up scenes in the world, they also have the heaviest and saddest scenes in the world. So like, be aware of that. And I just wanna add a side note to like warnings if you happen to check out these animes after you see the videos. In the last video that I made about animes that I have watched, I briefly touched upon Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and everything I said in that video was that I thought it was cute and funny. I did not mention anything else about it, so I am making it up now that while there are some aspects of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid that definitely were cute and funny, it has to be said that there is a lot of really weird things going on in that anime. There's especially regarding sexualization of minors, seduction of minors, adults seducing children happens a lot in that anime, and it's kind of used for humor, and I just wanna make it up now that I want to give that warning that if anyone saw my previous anime video and they want to check out Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid after hearing me say that it was cute and funny, I just want to add that warning about it now so that you don't go into the show and then just get very unfortunately surprised. And yeah, Revolutionary Girl Utena also has sexualization of minors, but definitely in another light, because Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, they used it as a joke. But in Revolutionary Girl Utena, it's actually like taken seriously. It should be noted that I have only watched the show once, and I feel like I probably need to re-watch it, because I feel like I will discover some new things that I didn't like notice the first time, and I think it's good to re-watch it, because then you can like notice some of the things that you didn't find out until later in the show, like going on already in the beginning. I also watched the movie. And the movie was confusing as fuck, but it was also kind of fun. And that was the 3 animes that I have watched. And I always feel like I summarize them like they're really boring. And that is mainly because I don't want to spoil anything, so I just like summarize them more like generally and don't dive into stuff. And sometimes I just mention there's these characters and then like I don't elaborate on it. But that being said, I enjoyed all of these shows that I watched. I mentioned that I may make a review of Onisama in the future if someone is interested. And you're also very encouraged to recommend me other animes to watch in the future too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.